Love him or hate him, you're probably at least aware of the British royal family, but what do you know about their closest friends? It makes sense that the royals' best friends consider their relationships to the monarchy to be incredibly important. The opportunity to act as a trusted confidant to a larger-than-life individual can be one of the most treasured aspects of their lives. In fact, that's how it was for Paul Burrell, the personal butler to Princess Diana and one of her closest friends. In his book, The Way We Were, he wrote, "I'll never lose sight of what a privilege it was to serve at her side and know her friendship."
I'm blessed. What an incredible, unique, inspirational human being the princess was, and I was her friend.
Like many, Burrell was awed by the princess's presence. More than anything, though, he cherished the personal time he was able to spend with her. Similarly, one of Elizabeth's closest friends and her personal dresser, Angela Kelly, has spoken about how grateful she was to have the chance to be so close to the Queen. For Kelly, seeing her best friend don the crown during the annual state opening of Parliament was always an incredibly moving moment. In her memoir, The Other Side of the Coin, she wrote, "It is a truly special moment for me, and I am so privileged to play a small part in it. Whenever I see Her Majesty in a diadem or a tiara, I am composed, but when she puts on the crown, it touches my heart." Since royals often play a very public role in society, it's critical they have at least one person they can trust completely, someone who is able to provide sound personal advice at the drop of a hat. In this sense, close friends of the royals are able to relieve some of the pressure and make the lives of their royal friends easier. In some rare cases, in which the bond is particularly strong, royals may even call upon those closest to them to act on their behalf. This happened in the late 1970s, when Princess Margaret was stricken with pneumonia right before an important trip to meet with government officials in the Philippines and Hong Kong. In her memoir, Lady-in-Waiting, Anne Glenconner described her royal friend's unusual solution, writing, "Instead of canceling them, she asked me to go on her behalf so I could explain the reason for her absence face to face." Even though Glenconner was one of Margaret's best friends and her lady-in-waiting, she was surprised at the request. She added, "I had never been asked to go anywhere on Princess Margaret's behalf, let alone 2 different countries, so I was apprehensive but excited." The visit left Glenconner with a more personal understanding of what was expected from her royal friend.
Life is safer with her there somehow.
Queen Elizabeth and her best friend and cousin, Margaret Rhodes, were both raised in much the same way. When they were children, the two had rather secluded lives and were educated at home by governesses. On the other hand, both Prince William and Harry were raised less formally, so their best childhood friends were able to meet the princes and interact with them under more ordinary circumstances. This more casual approach to child rearing extended all the way through to the prince's university years. William's closest friends were granted the freedom to hang out with him on campus. For example, meaning the prince could live a life not entirely unlike that of a normal student. William's closest friends were even allowed to stay with him in off-campus housing, giving them all a more standard university experience, one that, decades earlier, his royal status might not have allowed. Even though efforts have been made to normalize the lives of royals in modern times, there are many ways in which their experiences and the experiences of those closest to them have remained far from ordinary. For instance, Prince William's friends during his university years were made to sign confidentiality agreements if they wished to hang out with the young royal outside of class. From the perspective of the firm, these confidentiality contracts were intended to prevent William's friends from going to the media with candid stories about the royals. There are a number of other loyalty tests involved too. A secret yet highly effective method used at one point was to leak fake news to potential confidants and wait to see what happened. If the media picked up the story, then the supposed friend was exposed as someone who could not be trusted. Duncan Larcombe, a longtime royal correspondent at The Sun, confirmed that this was a test used by the royal family, telling Marie Claire, "I've spoken to William about it, and I do know that used to be something that they did." Within the inner circle of a royal, best friends are often called upon to keep secrets. In his book, Paul Burrell described what that was like for him even years after Diana's tragic death, saying, "My knowledge about the princess is vast. She entrusted much to me, and I know that I've been true to her memory. As I've always maintained, there are secrets and truths inside my head that will go with me to the grave." Burrell didn't just keep Diana's secrets, however. While the princess was alive, Burrell took his devotion a step further by helping her do things the princess did not want others to know about. Some of these rather scandalous instances were revealed in statements the butler later provided to law enforcement, such as handing out €50 payments to sex workers in an attempt to move them towards giving up their trade. Furthermore, Burrell smuggled the princess's lovers into Kensington Palace. You know, ordinary best friend stuff. The best friends of royals may not be literally related to them, as Margaret Rhodes was to the Queen. Their relationships often run deep. Many friends of royals have relatives who are already part of the inner circle. The Van Strobenzi brothers are prime examples of this because they have known both Prince William and Harry since they were kids. They all became friends later. For some families, these friendships have spread over generations. Tom Skippy Inskip, one of Harry's best friends for many years, is the son of Owen, who is close not only with King Charles, but also with the former British Prime Minister, David Cameron. Similarly, another one of the prince's besties, Guy Pelly, is the son of Lady Caroline Herbert, who was a close friend of Princess Diana. In a sense, these best friends were born into their roles, even if they don't necessarily see it that way. Many of the royals' best friends come from aristocrat backgrounds, which means they often feel a sense of superiority over pretty much everybody else on Earth. Unsurprisingly, this has created problems. Take Prince William and Kate Middleton, for example. In the beginning, William's closest friends were not okay with Kate's upper middle-class background, and they were quite vocal about it. Allegedly, the insults from the prince's inner circle included snide remarks in reference to her mother's job as a flight attendant, with friends shouting "doors to manual" whenever she arrived at a nightclub. The degrading comments did not end there either. In a 2008 Vanity Fair interview, writer Vicky Ward claimed that one of William's friends once reportedly said, "Her parents have a tarmac drive, for God's sake." To upper-class individuals in the UK, tarmac driveway is a sign of new wealth, making this another disrespectful jab at Middleton's upbringing, since none of William's friends seem to have had a public falling out with him at that time. They must also have felt quite comfortable saying such things. In 2012, a major scandal hit the royal family when Prince Harry enjoyed a night of partying in Las Vegas. Shortly after, a nude photo of the prince, taken during a game of strip pool, was released to the media.
You're constantly looking for other people to go sort of balance out your own behavior, right?
While this was embarrassing for Harry, it also revealed the identity of his best friend at the time, Tom Inskip. From then on, Skippy became closely associated with the prince's rowdier days. Around the same time, Guy Pelly, one of William and Harry's closest friends, gained a similar reputation due to the crazy nights he shared with the younger prince. According to journalists Omid Scobie and Caroline Durand, Pelly owned a nightclub that Harry reportedly enjoyed so much that he once spent almost an entire week there. Pelly continued to be perceived by the public and press as a bad influence on Harry. He was even claimed to be the person who convinced the prince to smoke weed for the first time, even though that was later determined not to be true. Much of the relationship between the royals and their closest friends is kept behind the scenes and will likely never be revealed to the public. Conversely, though, there are many important ceremonies and functions that friends of royals attend, occasions in which they are placed directly in the spotlight. Ultimately, this means that there have been many opportunities for the friends of royals to serve in meaningful roles that tie them even closer to the monarchy. For instance, Thomas Van Strobenzi is a godfather to Princess Charlotte, and his younger brother Charlie is a godfather to Prince Archie. Sometimes, friends will serve in these roles secretly, as Prince Harry revealed in his controversial memoir, Spare. Although Harry and William supposedly served as each other's best man at their respective weddings, in reality, that was not the case. At Harry's wedding, Charlie Van Strobenzi served as the best man, while James Meade and Thomas Van Strobenzi served as the best men for William. Harry wrote, "The lie gave cover to James and Thomas, two civilians, two innocents. Had they been outed as Willie's best men, that rabid press would have chased them, tracked them, hacked them, investigated them, ruined their families' lives. Both chaps were shy, quiet. They couldn't handle such an onslaught and shouldn't be expected to." Royals are very careful about who they allow into their inner circle, and for good reason. So, despite the close friendship Tom Inskip and Prince Harry shared, Skippy still found himself cut out of the prince's life for quite some time after he questioned Harry's judgment regarding his marriage to Meghan Markle. Prince was so upset by the situation that Skippy did not make it on the guest list to an evening party after their wedding ceremony. The snub clearly wounded the best friend because, according to Omid Scobie and Caroline Durand, he was allegedly heard saying that Meghan had changed Harry too much, adding, "We've lost him." Eventually, following the death of Skippy's mother-in-law, two friends made amends. An inside source revealed to The Sun, Skippy and Harry are back as tight friends. When Harry heard about Laura's mother's horrible passing, it really hit a nerve. Considering how extensively the press covers the royal family, many might assume that they have a clear picture of what is going on behind the scenes.
I would find it very difficult to see them coming back and having the relationship they used to have after this, personally.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But in reality, there are only a few who know the absolute truth. Outside of relatives, those would be the ones closest to the members of the monarchy. Their inside information provides a very different understanding of the dramas taking place within the royal family. Outside of the narrative pushed by the media, the supposed extreme rift between Prince Harry and the rest of the royals is the most recent case of this. The public has been made to believe that it has gotten so bad that the relationships are beyond the breaking point. On the other hand, when Joanna Lumley, a close friend of King Charles, was asked about her opinion on the matter, she had a very different answer. On an episode of The Jonathan Ross Show, she said,
Because I think we all look from the outside and we don't actually know what's going on the inside. We second guess it. And I think, I have a suspicion that that family is much closer than we think.